Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We're here today to talk about the Emergency Commodity Assistance Program. Um, we're going to be asking for you to put questions into the Q&A box. And after you put that in there, we will work to answer as many questions as possible that are put in there. And we'll also have time after the presentation so that we can answer some questions live here. The webinar that you're seeing today will be posted on our ECAP website, which we'll put in the chat. That will be live in about 2 weeks after we get that process through. And there's also going to be frequently asked questions on that page. So now that we've wrapped up a little bit of housekeeping, I'm going to be turning it over to our Director of Outreach, Linda Cronin.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It's such a pleasure to have all of you here. We're very excited to share with you some really good information on the Emergency Commodity Assistance Program. We've got Kimberly Graham, who's our acting administrator, that's going to do some opening remarks for us. And then also joining us today are Kathy Sayers. She's the director for the for the division, as well as Mike Walter, who's the deputy director. And then we also have Jamie Garriott, all the top experts that have helped create this program. So we're really happy to have them here. And then some of the outreach team is here, Greer Gill, who you just saw, Janet Wright, and Lindsay Mutegi. So with that, I'm going to turn it on over to Kim Graham.
Thank you so much, Linda and team, for putting together the meeting for today, our stakeholder engagement meeting. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining the call today. The big news and I want to say major accomplishment for USDA and Farm Service Agency, again, was the Economic Commodity Assistance Program. And like all good government programs, we have to find a good acronym. So ECAP was authorized under the American Relief Act of 2025 that was signed into law on December 21st. And it's the first of a suite of supplemental disaster assistance programs that USDA will be rolling out. And I know many of you may have already heard and have lots of the high level, but I just wanted to bring up just a couple of things and then turn it over to as Linda has alluded to, the real experts, the ones that have really done a wonderful job on getting ECAP out the door. Of course, ECAP provides $10 billion in economic assistance to producers who were impacted by increased input cost and falling commodity prices in 2024. So we know this is much needed support for our producers and ranchers. One of the things that I wanted to highlight as well is that we had 90 days to get this program out, and that was required within the legislation that we would have this out the door in 90 days. And again, FSA just did a outstanding job, and they exceeded that expectation by getting the program actually out the door 2 days earlier. But I think the real takeaway is that that just shows the commitment and dedication of this team wanting to be able to provide support to our much needed support, financial support to our producers and ranchers. The commitment that they put into this to making sure that we not only met the statutory deadline, but more importantly, got to a point where we could roll out these dollars to those producers that have been in dire need of that assistance. So I wanted to just highlight that as being a major accomplishment, not only for our team, but also for the states and county offices to be able to get all that they need to be in place to be able to, again, support our farmers and ranchers throughout the country. As I said, this is one of the programs in a suite of supplemental disaster assistance programs that were authorized in the American Relief Act of 2025. So, this is one that we, again, got out the door in the time that we were authorized. I mean, we were legislatively mandated to do, but we also are working on some other items, and hopefully One of the things that I know we've learned from rolling this out is that we will definitely try to be looking at other opportunities and ways to streamline and to improve processes as best as we can so that it's so that we can support our county offices as well as the producers and ranchers that will also come in and take advantage of those programs. I want to say that I think you all play a huge role in making sure that the information we share today and the information that the Safety Net Division team is going to share that covers the details of the program will be instrumental in you sharing and supporting your producers within your respective stakeholder organizations or groups as well. So I encourage you to ask questions and ask questions as well as if there are things that you've already heard in terms of feedback since the program did go live yesterday. If there is any feedback that you've already gotten, I welcome that during this call as well. And lastly, I just want to give a huge shout out to our Safety Net Division team here within the Farm Service Agency. They will be covering all of the details of the program. But again, I just can't thank our team enough for all the work and effort that they have put in at getting this rolled out. And lastly, I'll just say I want to close by just saying this program was needed, and we are glad to be able to get ECAP out again to provide that much needed assistance to help our farmers and ranchers throughout the country. Again, take advantage of our call today, ask questions, provide feedback. And with that, Linda, I'm going to kick it back over to you, or should I be kicking it over to Kathy?
We can go ahead and kick it on over to Kathy. Thank you, Kim.
Excellent. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining. We appreciate the opportunity to get to speak to you directly. We know that everyone has been wildly anticipating the ECAP program, and our direction from our new secretary was to have a program that is simple, transparent, and to get it out quickly. So as Kim said, we did exceed that targeted timeline by a couple of days, and the program rolled out yesterday. Software was released yesterday afternoon, along with that online application tool. We had a lot of participation even yesterday afternoon, about 20,000 applications, which is a really good start for a half day. We had about 1,000 applications that were completed online, in which we really want to encourage all of you to look at maybe possibly doing a login.gov account and look at applying online. We think that this program being very simple would be a great start to start engaging with FSA, and we're trying to move other programs to that platform as well. So we have an online producer-facing option, so you guys can apply from home if you want to. And then we also, of course, always welcome you in our offices and have that tool available. You can come in, talk to the county office staff, and apply there in person with them. They also can help you electronically file your applications. Kim's already given a pretty good overview of the program. Again, as you know, it was part of the larger supplemental disaster package that was passed with the American Relief Act. And this specific program is paying on the economic loss, which was the difference between the expected cost of production per acre for an eligible commodity, which were specified in the legislation, and the expected gross return per acre for that eligible commodity. Those rates were determined. All of those rates are published. We do have an ECAP website that went live yesterday as well. We, again, being asked from the secretary and our undersecretary's office, have a lot of tools on our website now that are for your use. Mike Walter and Jamie Garriott is going to be going over the tool as well as some pretty detailed slides, and just take the opportunity to ask any question. Overall, this online application in the office, we are going to be mailing the pre-filled application. So if you want to wait for that pre-filled application to come in and then submit it that way, you're more than welcome to. but you don't have to wait. Again, the two other options that I've already mentioned, you can take advantage of that now. Those applications will begin being mailed within the next few days. We had to wait until the NOFA was published, the data was verified, and then the mailings can begin. So anytime you want to come into the office, you do not have to wait on that pre-filled application to be mailed to you. In most states, if you did want to go in and apply online, it's going to be simple. It's going to be something that the data will pull up correctly, and you're not going to have to massage that data. Of course, you always want to verify that it matches your numbers of your planted or prevented planted acreage. But in most states, with most commodities, there's not going to have to be any overrides, which Jamie and Mike, again, will talk specifically of how that will occur. In my home state of Texas and maybe Oklahoma, a little bit of Kansas and maybe Nebraska, if you have short rate wheat, multiple intended uses, there is going to be a necessity to look at that and do some additional calculations. Again, Mike and Jamie are going to go over that in detail, but if you are in those states, you may want to pay specifically attention during that time, because there are specific things that you have to look at and will want to make sure that is included in your application for it to be accurate. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike and Jamie. Jamie's going to be going over training slides, and then we're going to have a question and answer session and further clarify a few things. So again, thank you for joining.
Thank you, Kathy. So as she kind of mentioned, the American Relief Act of 2025 provided $10 billion in that emergency aid to crop producers who their expected revenue in 2024 was below the projected per acre cost of production. All of that has been figured for our county offices to come up with our rates that we will be issuing payments at. So the eligible commodities for this program are listed on your screen. When we do applications, you're going to see cotton listed on the application as cotton, and it will include both upland and ELS cotton. Rice will also all be included into one, so it'll be long grain, medium grain, short grain, temperate japonica, and sweet rice all roped into one category of rice. For sorghum, we are including dual purpose sorghum, but we are not including the forage sorghum. So as they mentioned, the application period began yesterday, and the deadline to apply is August 15th of this year. So in order to be eligible, applicants have to have an interest in input expenses for an eligible commodity. They have to have had reported acres of the eligible commodities on an FSA 578 report of acreage form. And then if there are any prevented acres, those acres would have had to have been reported not only on the 578, but also they would have had to have filed a CCC 576 notice of loss form. They also have to be either a citizen of the United States or a resident alien, partnership organized under state law, corporation, LLC, or other organizational structure under state law, Indian tribe or tribal organization, or a foreign person or entity who meets all of the foreign person requirements. The land or acreage has to be physically located in the United States or one of the territories. Again, it does have to have the acres reported on a 578 report of acreage for crop year 2024. And then, like I mentioned before, if it was prevented from being planted, it has to have a CCC notice of loss on file as well. So the eligible acres of the actual commodity is the acreage planted for harvest, grain, haying, silage, or other similar purpose for 2024. If we are looking at prevented planting on the producer's operation as well. We are only taking 50% of that acreage that was prevented from being planted for the 2024. So when we're looking at those acreage reports, as I mentioned, producers are required to file that acreage report for all commodities which they're requesting ECAP benefits. When we're looking at this now for 2024, most everybody probably already has their acreage report filed from before, but if they are missing one, they can be late filed, and the county offices can walk anybody through that. The automated application, which is called an FSA 63 ECAP, will interface with our acreage database that the acreage reports were loaded into to pre-populate all of those applicants' eligible acres on the application. So there are not going to be any manual entries of commodities on the application. Those will all be pre-filled for you. So if a producer finds that there's an error on an acreage report, we are allowing the corrections. Any corrections or revisions need to be completed prior to the applicant signing that application. So since it does interface with our acreage reporting database, those acreage reports have to be corrected prior to that application so we can ensure that those numbers on the application are corrected. So in order to be eligible for a payment, we have to follow a lot of the same rules that the ARC PLC program follows. So they do have to be actively engaged in farming. The non-family joint operation rules do apply. Cash rent tenant rules apply. Foreign person, minor child, conservation compliance, direct attribution, substantive change, payment limitation, and controlled substance. So in order to receive a payment, we need to have an AD 2047, which is a customer data worksheet on file if we don't already have it, or if you have something that needs updated, let's say an address, phone number, email, a new one of those would need to be filed. A CCC 901, which is a member information for a legal entity if it's needed. A CCC 902, a farm operating plan. The AD 1026, which is the highly erodible land conservation and wetland conservation certification for the applicant and all affiliates. The SF 3881, the direct deposit. And then we also have a new form for this program. It's the CCC 943. And this is, the name of the form is really long. It's called the 75% of average gross income from farming, ranching, or forestry certification for increased payment limitation. So the deadline to file any of these is 1 year from the program deadline. So right now our program deadline, like I said, was August 15th. So we do have until August 15th of 2026 to get any of these remaining forms filed by the applicant. We do have a payment limitation for this program. The payment limitation is $125,000 if less than 75% of the average gross income for the person or legal entity for 2020, 2021, and 22 tax years is derived from farming, ranching, or civiculture, which is forestry activities. Keep in mind that we are not requesting producers to prove to us or certify their average gross income. The only time that we would ask this is on that CCC 943 if a producer is requesting an increased payment limitation. So if the producer is going to receive more than $125,000, they can request the increase to $250,000. If not less than 75% of their average gross income of the person or legal entity for the 2020, 2021, or 22 tax years is derived from farming, ranching, or civiculture activities. This payment limitation is separate from any other program, so keep that in mind as well. This is what everybody wants. This is a copy of the payment rates by eligible commodity. And I'm not going to go through each one of them, but you can see they are in alphabetical order on this chart. This chart is available on our fact sheet on the website, so they are posted where you can easily get to them. So the payments will be issued as applications are approved. The initial payments are going to be factored at 85%. That way we can make sure that we stay under that $10 billion funding cap. If after the end of the program, we find that there is additional funds left over, we will issue a second payment based on the applications already filed. We are going to be issuing those payments and calculating them at that flat rate that I just showed in the previous slide. So you're going to take the number of eligible commodity acres times that payment rate. Keep in mind, these payments are based on acreage and not production. And as I mentioned before, any acres that were reported as prevented planting, the ECAP assistance is going to be calculated at 50% of those acres. So what we have done is on the payment calculator on the public website. So if you go to the public website and you scroll, I think it's about halfway down, there's a big button. There's one that says online application, and then there's a link to a payment calculator. When you click on that link, this picture will come up. It's going to have some instructions at the top, some examples, and then if you scroll down, you will see this calculator. What you can do is you can enter your eligible acres or your eligible prevented acres and make sure that that is at a 50% rate. And then once you enter some acres on that, it'll do the calculation and give you an estimated payment. That estimated payment will just show you that the total of the acres times the payment rate times 85%. You will be able to download that in a PDF format. I can tell you if you leave this page and come back to it, it may keep those acreages in there. There is that reset button that you can clear them and start all over if you'd like. Keep in mind, there is a disclaimer on this. This is an estimate. This is not your final payment. This does not have any payment eligibility limitations or determinations calculated into it. It is just a general calculation. So for the application process, the application will be mailed to any applicant who reported an eligible commodity for the crop year 2024. Those have not gone out yet, but they will be going out soon. Applications will be pre-filled using that data from the reported 578s. There will be one application nationwide for an operation. So a producer will not have to apply in each state or county that they have interest in. It is all combined into one application nationwide. Producers can submit that application to any FSA county office nationwide by that deadline of August 15th. They can do it in person, by mail, electronically, by fax. They can email a scanned or photocopy of that pre-filled FSA 63 ECAP. They can complete this through Box One Span, which they can get through the county office, or they can do the application online. And this is what we would really suggest if you want to get it done right away. If you're out in your tractor or the field, because I know we're getting close to planting time, you can go to the public website. You will need a login.gov ID. If you do not have a login.gov ID, you can create one right from your cell phone. It'll go through some security questions. You'll answer all of them. You'll be granted access. This used to be the level 2 e-authentication process. But you'll go to this website, you'll click on the online application, you'll sign in with that login user ID and password. It'll pull up everybody that you can sign for, meaning if you have signature authority for someone in our office, you will be able to sign for that person. You're going to select the application you want to sign. You're going to click 2 buttons and your application is done. So it's really simple. And then once you have that login.gov ID established, there are other programs that you can apply for and sign up online and not even have to go into a county office. This is a sample of the application. So as you can see, everything is pre-filled on it. It's got part A, which is the producer information. And again, I mentioned if any of that information is incorrect, the applicant will need to contact the county office to get it corrected. Part B is where all of those acres that were reported on those FSA 578s are listed. They will automatically pull over. In this specific example, you can see that all of our acres were planted. So all of the acres are listed in item 11. There were no prevented planted acres, so there are all zeros in items 14. The producer will review this application, read the certification statement in Part C. They'll sign in box 17. If they're signing for somebody, they'll put their representative capacity in 18 and date in 19. That is all that there is for this, unless there are multi-use commodities or short rate commodities. So for most producers, all they have to do is sign and return this. So as I kind of mentioned before, you can apply online using your login.gov account. You'll access that online application through the ECAP website. And then if you don't have a login.gov account, you can create one. So once you log in, and I kind of skipped ahead a little bit already, but once you log in with that user ID and password, on that picture there, you can see that this producer has a lot of people he can sign for. He would select which producer that he wants to apply for with that box on the left, and then he would go ahead and go to the next screen. This is what it's going to look like. This is the same software that our county office sees. You see that the cotton acreage is listed there, the oats acreage is listed there. There's nothing that we can update on this. So the producer would click Save and Continue. And then at the bottom of the next screen, there's a little bitty checkbox that needs to be checked. By checking that box and hitting the Save and Continue box, that files your application. A notification will be sent to the county office and they will process it just as if you walked in the door with a paper copy. So after you click that Save and Continue button, this is the message that you get that says it's been successfully updated. That an email notification has been sent to the county office, and then it gives you the option of 3 different buttons. The first one is the applicant selection. So that'll take you back to the screen where you can pick somebody else that you have signature authority for to apply. You can click on View Form. This will pull up the form and it'll show your digital signature at the bottom. So this will be exactly what the county office sees. And then the ECPR, which is an estimated calculated payment report. When you pull this up, this gives you your estimated payment. It shows you the calculation on it. And just keep in mind, this is before any payment limitation reductions or anything like that. So there are a number of places that you can get answers. So you can go to the FSA landing page, which is the ECAP website. You can find a local service center, or you can contact the outreach. You are always more than welcome to go to a local county office. Call them. It does not have to be the one that you always do business with. If you're driving down the road and see one, stop in, ask questions. That's the only way that we're going to make sure that you have all the information you need. So I think at this time, we do have some questions that were submitted. I think we're going to have Mike read them, and we're going to go through some to get you guys some answers.
Okay, thanks, Jamie. Thanks for all that information. We'll start with a couple questions for you. The very first question is, how does ECAP work in a crop share situation?
So when we pull your acres over from our acreage database, we are pulling your specific share of the acres that you reported. So if I have 100 acres and I share 50-50 between Mike and myself, on my application, it's already going to show 50 acres. So there are no other calculations that have to be completed in most cases. Now, I will say the multi-use commodities and short rate commodities may have a little bit different instructions.
All right. Well, and we'll follow up with kind of the same question, but in a different format. If it's a cash rent situation, who gets the ECAP payment? The renter, cash renter, or the landlord?
So again, we're going to look at that crop certification, and generally speaking, that would be the cash rent producer, not the landlord.
I think that the key in both the share rent situation and the cash rent situation is we're using the data from our 578. So if it was reported by the cash renter and reported by the sharecroppers correctly, that's who the data will line up with and pay. So it is crucial that we have it accurate on the FSA 578 acreage report. All right, so another question is, just to confirm, the payment is 100% of planted acres, even if they were grazed, hayed, or for silage.
So we're technically, yes, we are using 100% of planted acres for hay, grazing, silage, or harvesting. So as long as it's an eligible commodity, we are using 100% of those planted acres if they are eligible. So there are some situations that if we have subsequent crops, those subsequent crops may not be eligible. But yes, we are technically using 100% of planted acres.
All right. So the next question is, am I understanding it correctly that the commodity rate is the same throughout the US, or is it different by county?
No, it is one rate per commodity. So when you look at that, and I'm looking at wheat, it's $30.69. Every producer in the nation who has wheat on their application is going to get paid $30.69 per acre.
All right, thank you. All right, the next question, and I'll ask it and I'll answer it, give you a break. You've been talking for a bit. Is there a specific process, or can you expand on the process for the second round of awards if there's funds still remaining? And honestly, I can't. As Jamie said, the initial payments will be factored at 85%, and that's to ensure that we've judged demand correctly, and the money that Congress attributed to this reaches our producers. As we get past the deadline and we see what the volume is that have come in, then there'll be an analysis at that point to see what, if any, money remains, and then how do we distribute that. So I think the quick answer is it's too soon to tell. Once we get to the end of the sign up and we know where we stand, we'll be able to move from there. So another one for you, Jamie. When will producers receive payments?
So payments are going to be issued as applications are approved. And I know county offices have been working diligently on getting approvals loaded. So I do know one payment has already been paid, and then there's going to be about 1,000 payments tonight, I think. But as applications are approved, they are issued payment nightly. You can say that it takes about 3 to 5 business days after they show up for the county office to, we call it certify and sign. So you're looking, I'll say a week to be safe, but it's usually 3 to 5 days after that application has been approved.
All right, we have another one it's slightly complicated. But if I planted an ensiled corn, I get paid. But if I plant an ensiled forage sorghum, I don't get paid. And it's a little bit more complicated than that. So from the corn standpoint, yes, if you planted yellow corn, and whether you did it for grain, you did it for silage, you'll get paid on that. From the sorghum standpoint, inside of FSA, we subcategorize crops. And so we have the crop of grain sorghum, we have the crop of dual purpose sorghum, and then we have a third of forage sorghum. So the way the statute was written for this program is it ties back to crops that were eligible for marketing loans, or the procedure or the statute in the Farm Bill that dictates marketing loans. So in that's where we pick up the dual purpose and the grain sorghum. So technically, if you had grain sorghum that you harvested for silage, you do get paid. If you have dual purpose sorghum that you harvested for silage, you get paid. If it's forage sorghum, that one is out. I hope that it's kind of, I feel like it's kind of complicated, but hopefully that helps. All right, and those are the only open questions we have at this time.
The one thing that I do want to mention is any producer who has a multi-intended use commodity will have to make an adjustment on their application. So they will need to contact the county office for assistance on that. Also, there are some adjustments that may need made for commodities that have a small grain policy that use a short rate option. So in that case, those are also going to need some assistance from the county office. Those are going to take a little bit more work. So please be patient if you do have a situation like that, that we just want to make sure that all of your acreage is correct.
All right, I just pausing to see if any other questions come in the next few moments. All right, so another question that's coming in. What do we do if a producer has short-rated wheat and unplanted cotton in a non-approved scenario? What do we do or look for in the application?
Okay, so this can go one of two ways. So if there is cotton planted somewhere else on the operation, what you're going to look at is on that application, only the cotton that's planted is somewhere else on the application, and the wheat is going to show up. What we have to do is we have to pull the producer print, which is a summary of all of the producer's acreage. We have to look for that cotton J code, which I say cotton J code, that's how it's reported. And then we have to add those cotton acres into the application to include it with other cotton acres that are on there. Now, let's say that in this specific case, the only cotton was the cotton following the short-rated wheat. Then at this time, we do have to wait until we have a software modification that comes out. We will pay on the application the way it is. So we will automatically pay the wheat right away. And then once we get the software fixed to where we can add that cotton that's not on the operation anyplace else, we will make that additional payment for those cotton acres that we add. This application specifically will need assistance by the county office employees. So if you do have that, please make sure that you're keeping that open line of communication with them.
Thank you. So another question come in a double crop FAC operation, are the payments made on both crops?
In a double crop, what operation?
Well, it says FAC, and I guess FAC. I'm not 100% sure what that means, but I think we can just address it in general for double crop situations.
Okay. So if it is an approved double crop and both of the commodities are eligible commodities, then yes, we are making payments on both of them. If it is not in an approved double crop situation, then we will only be paying the initial commodity unless it's in a rotation such as a non-covered non-fruit and vegetable rotation. So if you, let's say, have alfalfa and then you destroy that and plant soybeans after, we would cover the soybeans if they're coded correctly on the certification.
And really, we include that one because, you know, where our deadlines are at FSA, and generally you're reporting that alfalfa or that mixed forage in the fall. in our case for this program, you would have reported it in the fall of 23 by our deadline. And then, maybe that wasn't a great winter and you had too much winter kill, you decided to plow it up, or it was just the normal rotation that you decided to plow it up. Because you reported it once, it forces that corn, soybeans, whatever you planted in the spring to technically look like a double crop. And we wanted to make sure that we included those situations as eligible. All right, I don't have any other open questions on my end. Does it come back to you, Greer?
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today on the call. Again, as you can see on the website, we have some important websites. The first one, so you can get all of the important information on this program and dive in more, including those prices that Jamie shared with us on all the different commodities and questions and answers and other things. If you don't know where your local service center office is, we've included a locator, so you can, based on which county you're in, you can find out where your local office is. And then also, if there's any questions, concerns, or comments, feel free to reach out to the FSA Outreach Office. We will make sure we direct you in the right place for your questions. With that, thank you very much for joining us. As Janet mentioned, this recording will be made available, so watch for that. And thank you for joining us today. Have a great afternoon, everyone.